just got back from seeing this new movie, I Am Number 4, with my goddaughter Catherine. I hadn't read the book, she had, and she was saying how much she loved the book and was certain this was going to be a great movie, and I thought the trailer looked kind of interesting, so I figured, what the hell. So we went out with a friend of ours, Brett, to go catch this movie, and I gotta be honest with you, man, I haven't been more disappointed with a sci-fi movie in a long fucking time. This movie is awful. I mean, it's just unforgivable. Now, I'm going to preface this with saying I probably didn't come in under the best pretense, simply because right before we went out to get something to eat and then go to the theater, we actually sat around and watched The Room. I just got my copy of The Room on DVD, ran out, got it on Amazon, decided to inaugurate it the absolute best way I possibly could by actually going in and watching it with someone who had never seen this movie before. And I've only seen it once before as well, so I thought this would be a perfect opportunity, and sure enough, right afterwards we go in, and it was honestly one of those times where we were sitting there discussing at the end which was actually worse. Now, don't get me wrong, The Room is a much, much worse movie. But the kicker there, of course, is that as awful as The Room is a really fun, really enjoyable movie. You can revel in how bad it is. There's no enjoyment in this goddamn flick, man. There's nothing to be happy about. There's no elements, no acting, no performances. The visual effects themselves aren't that impressive. I mean, in this day and age, we've certainly seen a hell of a lot better. Hell, we've seen a lot better in the last couple of months, Some of the stuff you see in smaller pictures really surprises you with how much more impressive it is, because it actually services the story in some way. And in this one, there's not much of a story to service. I was a little upset because right before we walked into the theater, my goddaughter kind of spoiled it for me that the whole thing behind this is that the kid who's the lead in this whole thing is actually an alien, and that the whole story centers around the notion that there's a group of these young aliens who are like the last survivors of their planet, and essentially what they do is, they're constantly on the run, and there are other aliens that are constantly hunting after them. Now, I figured it was probably something like that, because there's not a whole lot of explanations for why there would be these cats running around with superpowers and shit, but I mean, it could have been anything, so I was a little disappointed that I didn't get to discover that, sort of firsthand, as it happened, but not such a terrible thing, because the opening of this fucking movie, after what actually is a fairly interesting, if awfully constructed, really poorly shot, and terribly lit action sequence, which opens the film, you actually wind up getting a huge, long, ridiculous exposition sequence where the main character basically narrates. Now, as a writer, I can tell you, I'm a big fan of narration when it's done right, when it services, again, the story, and when it's not just used as filler to basically explain away the stuff we either couldn't afford to show or didn't want to bother having to show or explain through some visual medium, because that's what film is. It's a visual medium. Don't say show. I don't have a problem with you doing narration if it's actually going to lead to something, if it's going to give me a clue as to what it is I'm going to see, and then you're going to show that later. But of course they don't do that. They sit there and he literally narrates for, I'm not kidding you, like 3 minutes continuous, and all it really is more than likely somebody took the first page and a half, 2 pages of this damn book and just had this guy read it line for line for line. It's like a fucking bullet list of, you know, the idiot's guide to I Am Number 4. You know, everything you need to know to get through I Am Number 4 and know exactly where you are. And so, of course, they give away the whole backstory about them being aliens and, you know, being hunted in the first 5 minutes. So I couldn't even really be mad at my goddaughter, you know. It was it was just so bad. I mean, the one saving grace, I will say, and Brett and Kat and I all said the exact same thing. The one saving grace of this fucking movie is Timothy Olyphant. I mean, say what you will about the guy, say what you will about some of the movies he's done. I know there are people out there that don't like Hitman. The Crazies is not a great movie, but honestly, that's not his fault. You know, I happen to like his TV show Justified, though I don't get a chance to watch it very often. But he is like a bright shining light in this sea of abject shit, like in the midst of all of this nonsense. Every time he walks onto the screen, it's literally like he just looks at these young actors and goes, "Excuse me, son, grown folks are talking here," and proceeds to show them exactly how it's fucking done. He walked in from another fucking movie, and every scene he is in is basically saved by him. Unfortunately, there's another actor whose name I don't know and have not bothered to look up because, quite frankly, I don't give a fuck. I know he was in Legion. I believe he's a British actor. He played, I think, the Archangel Gabriel in that really, really shitty apocalyptic angel movie, Legion. You've seen him in some other stuff too. He plays one of the aliens that's hunting the kids in this goddamn movie. And this is no spoiler. Nobody, and believe me, there's really nothing to spoil in this film. Nothing fucking happens. But these aliens, while they have kind of an interesting design, you know, with the fucking gills by the nose and, you know, sort of how they wear prosthetics, you know, to basically make their nostrils look more human, and they wear false teeth so that, you know, they can walk around in fucking hoodies like, you know, emo aliens and sort of blend in with the crowd. He's just got nothing to do, and the more and more I see this guy, the less and less I want to see him. I mean, you know, I gotta look up some of his other work, and, you know, maybe he's done some good stuff in the past. I know I've seen him in a lot of stuff. It's just I can't ever remember what any of it is, and that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign when you're a young actor and you're getting a lot of, you know, supporting roles and usually playing the villain. You know, it's like if you're the villain in a movie, you should be the most memorable character in the entire flick. You know, any action movie, any science fiction film, any adventure film, the movie and the heroes are only ever as good as the villain is. If you have an awful villain, it just does not work. So this cat, literally, it's strange because he doesn't have much dialogue, and a good chunk of the dialogue he has is not in English, and yet he manages to chew the scenery every single fucking time. And that's a skill. You know, I mean, you know, you put that to good use. The kid could develop an unnatural talent that could, you know, lend itself to a blossoming career, but not if he keeps making movies like this, man. Not if he keeps shitting out turds like this every goddamn week. Cause, yeah, and you notice I've been talking about the performances. I've been talking about, you know, the acting. I've made I made a quick mention of some of the visual effects in the film. I haven't talked about the story. That's because there isn't one. All right, there is no story. There is a very, very loose plot thread. There's a whole lot of exposition, but there is no fucking story in this thing. Literally, watching this movie, two things kept popping into my head. One, somebody found an old episode of Dawson's Creek, like a script for an old episode of Dawson's Creek, and decided to film it. You know, they decided to go and get a director who had worked on Dawson's Creek and filmed it and threw in a bunch of fucking visual effects because they needed to find an excuse to release it in theaters because nobody wanted to see a feature-length episode of Dawson's Creek. Or this is really just some expanded out alternative music video. you know, fucking The Bravery or somebody actually recorded a new song and decided we're going to do the Michael Jackson thing, but we have an hour-and-a-half movie, which is basically just a really extended sequence in our music video, and then at some point or another they forgot to actually film the fucking music video. Because there's a whole lot of the sort of, you know, new age alternative you know, music throughout this goddamn thing, and it's not horrible music, it's not great, but I mean it's forgettable, it's serviceable considering the visual style of the goddamn movie, and I guess the audience they're trying to capture, but it does nothing. The whole movie does nothing. Don't blame the soundtrack. You know, I mean, even, I say this all the time, there was a period in black cinema where if you made a black movie, it really kind of didn't matter how bad your movie was, because you were going to have a kick-ass soundtrack, and your soundtrack was going to go triple platinum. So niggas were going to run out and watch the movie no matter what, because they wanted to see the movie all the goddamn songs came out of. You know, half the time, you know, half the songs on the soundtrack were #1 hits before the fucking movie even hit the streets. This movie does not have that. This movie doesn't have one of those soundtracks that's going to inspire any kind of confidence. It doesn't have you know, any kind of twist. There's no twist in the story. It's very fucking cut and paste. You know, it's a bad pilot. It's a really, really bad pilot. And according to my goddaughter, they actually changed and left out a whole bunch of stuff from the book that would have made it make sense. So if you're a fan of the book, don't watch it. If you're a fan of good sci-fi, don't watch this thing. If you're a fan of good action, buy a ticket to something else and then sneak into the theater in the last 15 minutes. There's a little bit of that, and then, you know, I mean, it's not very well done, but there's a little bit of a good action sequence at the very end of this flick. You know, so go pay to see another movie, sneak in at the very last 15 minutes to watch that little bit. One last thing. And again, I didn't read the book. I'm not certain, but this is something that my goddaughter told me, and I'm taking it as the gospel truth, because I don't think she'd lie to me about this. The character Sam in the movie, who is he's like the science geek. He's the nerdy kid who's, you know, looking for aliens, and his dad's gone missing, so he spends the whole movie, you know, trying to come up with a reason to hang out with everybody and look for his dad. I guess in the book he was like a black kid. He was a young, skinny, persecuted black kid, and he was the only black kid in the entire town. So of course, when they make it into a feature-length film, the very first thing they do is they cast a skinny white kid, you know, because they couldn't find any black actors under the age of 27 to actually play the role of the film. Not that really stopped them with any of the other actors, because apparently, I mean, looking at this goddamn thing, I swear, everybody who's playing a teenager in this fucking movie looks like they're at least in their mid to late 20s. Like, it's not even close. It's terrible. These are not kids. These are half of these guys look like they need to be getting a pension. It's fucking terrible. So, you know, final verdict, this is not a classic. This movie's an absolute sleeper. You know, it is so not worth your time or effort. Do yourself a favor. Do not go out and see this movie. Save the money, spend it on something else. We had originally intended to go and see The Adjustment Bureau, because that looks basically like it's borrowing a whole lot from Dark City. And if you're gonna steal, you know, plot elements and story ideas from a movie, why not steal them from one of the greatest fucking movies of the last 20 years? Dark City is awesome. So if you really want to do yourself a favor, take the $10 or $12 you would have used to go see I Am Number 4 and go to a fucking Best Buy or a Fry's and buy Dark City on DVD if you don't own it, because that fucking movie's fantastic, and that movie's worth every penny. Alright, I will catch you guys later.